Look, this should not surprise you at all when I tell you this, but I couldn't wait. It's Romania Black, and I have honestly not had that feeling in a good hot second. But yeah, no, I had like 4 or 5 different shows that I was trying to choose from to watch tonight, and then I had planned on watching Steins Gate Zero after the moderator had checked the comments, after Be Happy had checked them, and then I was just sitting there like, but I kind of want to go ahead and watch it, so so that's where we're at. We are on episode 2 of Steins Gate Zero, and I said this in the Discord. Watching episode 1, it felt like old school Steins Gate. It felt not that the old school Steins Gate feeling went anywhere, but it just felt there was a rejuvenation. It just felt like I was like, okay, cool. We have all these things going on. We don't know what's happening. You know, when you watch the movie and the OVA in episode 24, you kind of get the sense of like, okay, well, this is the end. We're wrapping up the story. Now we're like off in other world line, and it's like there's so many possibilities and things that can happen. So it's like this fresh feeling. I'm all about it. So yes, as far as the dub, I did watch the English dub of episode 1, which was great. It's the same cast, so you're like, you know the quality that you're getting. I do think some notes that I put from the dub, Mayuri wishing that her hand had a different impact. That's kind of how she said it. In my mind, is like she wishes she could have, like, you know, handled the situation with Okarin differently, which she's going to later on. She's going to smack him when we get back to episode 23. So we had talked in previous episodes about the idea, Kurisu actually brought it up, that all of the versions of you, they carry throughout time. They ebb and they flow. Like we had the scene with Mayuri and Okarin way back in Steins Gate where she was like, I'm from 400 million years ago and I'm going to follow you and do all this. So if it goes from the past to the present, then my mind is also it goes from the future to the past, which we talked about early on in the series with like the science of time travel and everything. So I wonder if the Mayuri of this timeline in the future is going to influence Mayuri in the past in episode 23 in the other world line where she smacks him, you know, stuff like that. When Okarin's like talking to the hypnotherapist, he says she doesn't even know me. And it takes you a little bit to realize that, yeah, this Kurisu in this world line, because of all the D-mails that he undid the events of the 3 weeks, she doesn't know him. And the AI sure as hell probably don't know him. So Amadeus. There was one line though, that just like the special episode where Amane was like walking off. Still not over that. There was a line that I literally stopped what I was doing and just kind of stared at the screen. And it was when Amane's like, she says, she's talking to Daru, and she's like, Mom was always on your back for procrastinating. And Daru's English dub actor, they literally had him say this. He was like, I'd welcome your mom on my back. And I was like, this is wild. What? And then immediately Daru was like, that was too much. And I was like, I was like, damn, I know we swear in this anime, but I was not expecting it to get that. I'm like clutching my pearls. I shouldn't say anything. My mind is in the gutter 60% of the time. So I was like, Of course, J. Michael Tatum is amazing as Okarin when he's saying, I know how useless someone can be against time. I was like, and he really does a really good job in this when he's talking to Amane about meddling in time and everything. But he is right. One person isn't the only thing to save the future. And if we know from the movie and stuff past, it's going to take Kurisu as well, but not in this timeline. Not in this timeline, friends. No. So, also Maho. Love Maho's English dub actress. Love that. Maho, they did a really cool thing in the English dub where when Maho is introduced alongside Dr. Alexis, she starts speaking in actual Japanese while he's speaking in English, which is cool because in the English dub, I was like, how are they going to do this? They have her speaking in Japanese. Now, the one thing they do is after they introduce her as the translator and she speaks Japanese for like his little introduction, when it gets down to the nitty gritty of introducing Amadeus, she switches to English, which is for us, the audience, because in the Japanese sub, you don't really hear him talking anymore. You just hear her. So I think it would have been cooler if they just put subtitles and had her speaking Japanese the whole time, but I get how that has to work for the show, so it's fine. But yeah, the dub is really good. I enjoy it quite a lot. Before we get started, since I have you all here, I want to give a shout out over to my philanthropy tier over on Patreon. Everybody on Patreon is super awesome. I don't get monetized on YouTube because the taxes, none of that now. It's a lot. But I don't want to get monetized on YouTube for various reasons. So Patreon is the only form of support I get on my channel, and I am insanely grateful for everyone that supports me over there. So if you can go over to my Patreon and support me, that would be awesome. But if you can't in this economy, I understand. So if you can't support me on Patreon, please do me a solid, like this video, comment down below, even if it's something like, hey, saw you randomly online and I'm here to talk about Steins Gate Zero or anything, and then subscribe to the channel, obviously, because that helps exposure on Yield YouTube. And if you are on Patreon, first of all, thank you. You're awesome. You look amazing today. And second, I also want to thank the philanthropy tier because they donate a few extra dollars each month to help support me and the channel. So special shout out to Alex Cornejo, to Alexandra Q, Be Happy, Dana, Damage 3245, Daniel Devorin, Destiny Marie, Diana Williams, as well as Ichu Eric, Fisho, Ghostly Turnip, James, Elfreya, Lou Genesis, Lyndon, Murphy, Rast, Rose Jennison, Sunspots, Translucent Men, Shimayama, Sean, Jason N, Nicholas, and Zero Anti-Zero. I really appreciate everybody's support. Thank you so much. All of my love. So yeah, that's what I got. I'm super excited. I've talked way too much, but I got to this episode and I was like, I really just want to watch it tonight. So I not only have soda, but I have coffee as well. I heated up my coffee and then when I sat down, I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to have a soda. So, you know, we'll just double fist. I might even save some of this soda for tomorrow. I'm trying to cut back. Like Steins Gate's like the only thing I drink a soda for, and I'm trying to cut back and be healthier. So with that being said, we are not going to waste any more time. We are going to start Steins Gate 0, episode 2, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and I'll see you all on the other side. Oh, the plot thickens. This episode, this whole series is so creepy crazy. And I think a big part of it is that, you know, the first series was like around 2000. I mean, it was created around 2009, 2010. And so it was like, it's, you know, as much as we hate to think it, it's like 15, 16 years from now, which is, but 2018 is only like 6 years ago. Still 6 years ago. Still a long time. And I'm really sad that it's already been that long. But 2018 was still a bit closer, especially technology-wise, to where we're at now. And all the kind of chat GPT, like I'm reminded of Her with Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson in it. That movie's messed up. I'm getting Deus Ex Machina vibes. I'm like, there's a lot of creepy things in this episode, and how susceptible and how easy it is for Okarin to get caught up in something. It's like an addiction. It's a drug. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it in this because I watch a lot in my spare time when I'm not, I say spare time, when I'm not reacting or doing like job things or coaching or working on farm stuff, when I'm not doing all of that, and when I'm just like editing or working out or something, I like to watch like long form YouTube content about things that I know nothing about, which is usually things related to TikTok. What's going on in the world, who's popular, what trends are going on, things that I have no interest really in, but I want to know more about them. I should probably be looking up research and science things, and instead I'm looking at psychological stuff like parasocial relationships and things like that, and therapists that have clients that think they're in love with them and stuff like that, which we'll talk about in this. But there's some things technology-wise and in this episode that are very creepy and unsettling, and I'm really excited to see how this series dives into this. So also, I love Maho. I love Maho. I was really worried when last episode came around because, you know, you have Okarin and Kurisu and they're the dynamic duo, but Maho is different than Kurisu. She's not the same. She is a very different character. She has very different like reasonings and groundings and things like that. But we're going to talk about it. But I really like Maho's character a lot. And in this world line, if Kurisu is dead, do I support Okarin getting shipped with Maho over this AI chat GPT? You better damn believe it, because that is not Kurisu. That is, oh, it's so creepy. Also, Alexis, we're going to talk about a lot of things in this episode. I freaking loved it. Let's go ahead and get this party started. Get this pulled up here. And we're going to look at this here in 3, 2, 1. So Amadeus, what was interesting is what they showed the audience. I thought, based on the special episode that we watched before diving into this, the beta episode, I thought that they were going to pull Makise up on the screen. That is not what they did, which in hindsight makes a lot of sense, because it would be kind of in poor taste to say, oh, well, we had this scientist and, you know, we're using her interface and she died, but here she is. That would be in poor taste. Have they already done it? Well, yes, but they were already working on it before she left. So we do establish in this that back in March of 2010, that Amadeus had uploaded with Kurisu's memory. So far, the only people that have uploaded any memory into this device are Kurisu and Maho. They're the only ones. So Kurisu's memory is in here. And then she came in July/August to Japan. And that is where our Steins Gate World line happened. And now we are in December. So yeah, it has been 8 months, as Kurisu points out. So it's December 2010 is where we are at right now. So yeah. So let's get in this and talk about this. I wanted to kind of pull up, while we're thinking of it, epigraph of the closed curve. I want to look up what this is. Epigraph of the closed curve. Oh, it is a light novel in Steins Gate. Okay, Steins Gate as a, does it mean like epigraph of the closed curve? It's a light novel in Steins Gate. I'm trying to see if it'll pull up anything. Let's just do it. Let's break it apart by words. What is an epigraph? So an epigraph is an inscription on a building, statue, or coin. So I'm going to determine by that logic that we have an epigraph that is basically the concept of Kurisu's memory engraved not only into Amadeus' system as a whole, but figuratively, Kurisu's memory is engraved into Maho and Okabe's hearts. I want to talk about the bar scene with them. I love that scene so much. I'm obsessed with it, but we're going to get that. And then, so basically the idea of not only is Kurisu's memory embedded into a system and a technology, but it's also engraved into the heart and soul of Maho and Okabe, who both cared for her immensely. So yeah. So then we have a closed curve. What is a closed curve? A closed curve, interesting. There's a thing called Wolfram Math World. What is this? In the plane, a closed curve is a curve with no endpoints, which completely encloses an area. Ooh, okay. So they give the example of, so basically it is a curve with no endpoints. That's not going to be a thing in this series. No endpoints. What time? What? Where it is completely encloses an area. So, for example, they give an example of open curves. So, like R for Romania. There's that. Or da-da. Those are open curves. That's what they are. A closed curve is something like this, looking like an amoeba, or something that starts out, curves around, but still comes back and encompasses an area. Again, the engravement of a endless curve that comes back and encloses an area is literally the description of how Makise Kurisu has engraved herself in the hearts and minds of Okarin and Maho. Both of them are literally entranced by her presence. And that's what this episode kind of talks about. So that's fun. That's a great time. But anyway, so the theory served as the foundation for the system. Now, I do want to bring this up because they're like, look at the screen. And then, of course, they have tech difficulties. I kind of liked the realism of this moment because if you've ever been to like a college campus or a seminar or anything involving technology with projectors or any tech like that, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be a tech issue. So it felt very realistic. But it builds up the tension for the audience of us being like, what are we going to do? And they're like, is it broken? Is it even possible to store like memory data in a system? How did they take the samples? So we found out that the samples from Kurisu are from like months before she came to Japan. So that gets explained. Glad we've got that taken care of. And I do feel like there is a connection between them taking the data from someone's memory and inputting it into something else, and the time leap machine who took data from someone's memory and implanted it into a person, only it's that person from before. So there are connections between Amadeus and the time leap machine. There are some connections there, which are fun to think about and terrifying in concept. So again, there's so much from this episode that is tying back to episodes 1 and episode 2 of the original Steins Gate, which is kind of funny because you have in the OG Steins Gate episode 1, Okarin went to the lecture of Kurisu's dad, got annoyed at his theories, stood up and corrected him, and then we went on our way. In this, he stands up and corrects this one man who this man was bringing up some good points. He was bringing up some good points, being like, this is kind of an insane theory. Why would we think that? He's like, I read that paper in science and I didn't believe any of it. But then he goes one step too far. He's like, especially when the lead author is some 17-year-old girl. I was like, why we gotta be sexist? Why we gotta be ageist? Why we gotta be a douchebag, sir? Why you gotta do that? Also, one thing that is interesting, and I don't know if it's just because the legal age of consent in the US is 18 and it's different in Japan. They changed it in the English dub that Kurisu is 18 in the dub, where here they say 17. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a misspeaking that happens, but it did occur. And then Okarin stands up and says, listen here, mister. He says objection like he's from Ace Attorney. It was great. And then Alexis doesn't even know. Alexis don't even know that Okarin is friends with Kurisu in the past. He may have hypothesized that in the moment. Maho didn't until he said so later. But the close-up of him, like, mouth open, like, Alexis has the biggest crush on Okarin possible. And as a supporter of the yaoi, I'm not opposed to this. All we need now is Okarin to look at Alexis and be like, he was handsome, the broadest back, the blondest hair, the greenest eyes, but also a dude. We need that. We need that to happen. I'm like, sir, Alexis's advances were so obvious. I was like, sir, I'm sorry that you came straight out of a 90s BL and Okarin is not playing. I'm so sorry. Which, granted, Okarin is like one of the most heterosexually coded MCs I've seen in an anime. So, Alexis just had no chance. Maybe in another world line, but just no chance right off the bat. But that is freaking hilarious. I laughed so, well, y'all saw me, but that's so freaking funny. And he's like, how do you know it can't ever be done if you've never tried it? I will give Miyano Mamoru props. I'm excited to see J. Michael Tatum do this, but when Miyano Mamoru gives a monologue, man delivers a monologue. He knows how to do it. We only have those things today because researchers push the envelope. Yep. And then everybody's just standing there staring at him. And Alexis is ready to pounce. He's like, do you want to come to my private seminar, sir? It's like, it's so great to see someone so enthusiastic. It is people like this bold man we can thank for the progress of science. The world's third Einstein. Who was the second Einstein? Who is that? Who's known as the second Einstein? I don't want ChatGPT to tell me the answer. Interesting. Who is the second Einstein? Okay, 2019. World-renowned scientist dubbed the second Einstein lives in Oregon. I don't think that's it. I don't know. There's like a bunch of different like names being thrown out here, but I don't think that any of them are coming up there. Some people say Stephen Hawking. Okay. Some people say Stephen Hawking is the second Einstein. Okay, I could see that. All right, that makes more sense. So third Einstein. Man, Alexis just slandered this man, which granted he was being a douche, but he just slandered him and been like, sit down, sir. Okarin, look at how great he is in this moment. And Okarin's like, sorry. However, scientists must always strive to remain calm. Yeah, I don't see a lot of calm happening in this series to come. I don't foresee calm to be the adjective I would use to describe what's about to happen, because Alexis didn't watch Steins Gate, the original series. Calm wasn't the word I would use throughout any of the episodes at all. I'm excited. This is, as you can tell, I'm really liking this series so far. This is great. Shouting out loud should be reserved for only when our experiments succeed. Well, all right, Mr. Policeman. See on that. And Okarin's like, what do we do? So they get the thing up and running, and we see Maho. And she's like, my existence stems from hers as of 78 hours and 22 minutes in the past. This is so creepy. This is very creepy. I don't like this. The thing is, if that technology gets out to like anybody else, it could easily be like, could you imagine? This is kind of what I was talking about last week, where people are taking not memories of people, because that doesn't exist in our current timeline, fortunately, but taking information. It kind of, though, you know what, though? It kind of is like that, because I think I was telling you all about the tech last week where people could preserve their like loved ones onto some kind of like, it basically was taking like a loved one that had passed and creating a AI counterpart that could talk back to, it's literally this. The only thing is they didn't upload a memory system from the frontal cortex into this device. They took information that the people that are family members supplied to the AI company, and then the company took that information and basically created an AI that's a fanfic of your loved one. That's literally what it is. It's like the technology is they took pictures, like testimonies, personal information, which the personal information part creeps me out because that data should not be theirs to access, and then created an AI interface that talks back to you as the person based on what information you've given it. And that is creepy. Nope. So yeah, my existence stems from as of 78 hours and 22 minutes in the past from her memory. The thing is, I'm based on her memories from roughly 4 days ago. And it has a camera that's hooked up. So the AI has a camera where it can look out and see the audience and interact with it. And I actually went somewhere where I was talking, I don't know if I talked about this in the episode as well, but I went last week, and at the school that I was at, they were doing a demonstration, and they had this, looked like an iPad, and it was hooked up to this like simulation dummy that simulated a patient at this, at this basically a university that's teaching nursing students. But it was hooked up to a simulated dummy, and the simulated dummy, it could breathe, it could blink. It was very realistic as far as dummies go. And the students that were nursing students would have to try and do a task, like whether it's administer medicine or put in an IV or do something. But the AI that was attached to the dummy would be able to monitor the students. And then if the student did something wrong, it would act like the dummy and ask questions. So they demonstrated it, and the dummy, like if a student talked to another student and said, I don't know how much medicine to give them, the dummy would go, what do you mean you don't know how much medicine to give me? And it was creepy. It was so crazy. I was like, oh. And on the one hand, there is so much kind of cool medical practicality because you don't have to experiment on people. You don't have to use people as like literal dummies to like test IVs and stuff like that. The nursing students can have a real world experience working with a patient that responds and has a conversation, but you're not experimenting or harming actual people in the process. And it still teaches them things. So I could see as an educator, and I don't like AI at all. I don't like generative AI. I don't, for creative things, I don't at all. But I could see in this learning instance where I'm like, okay, well, the AI is helping to simulate this patient that is teaching the student how to react in a situation when the patient talks back right? And I could see that, because if it was just the instructor talking back, it doesn't quite have the same feel. But when you don't know what the AI is going to say, it adds kind of a real world sort of tension to that, right? But however, I could easily see where things could get off the rails rather quickly. I was like, y'all have seen Terminator, right? So this AI interface is really interesting. And they're like, I can guess what you're thinking. But here's the thing. Just like ChatGPT, just like any large language model AI, it's not generative in the way that you think it is. It doesn't create, like Maho and Alexis talk in this episode about the problem that they're having is that they've kind of hit a wall. They can only talk to the Kurisu Amadeus so much without not having anything else to say. Because what these do is that this AI, it doesn't create anything at the moment. But what it is doing, it's not creating anything at the moment, but what it's doing is absorbing any data given and assuming a response. Now, can it evolve? Well, maybe. Can it evolve? Maybe, because, this is a science fiction show, so could it evolve and gain its own consciousness? They allude to the fact that it can. So that's going to be interesting to see. But in our world, as AI is right now, we can only give AI information, and at some point, it's only going to regurgitate or re-look through what it has access to. It can't create its own knowledge. It can only filter through the knowledge given to it and give answers based upon that. So it is limited. Whereas this technology seems like if it can respond and have sentience, that's problematic. And so it interacts with the audience and says, go on, ask me questions. The majority are probably thinking that preserving memories as data is an impossible feat. But if that were true, then what does that make me? All right, I'm going to skip the OP and the ED. I know y'all want me to watch it. The mods will let me know when I can see it, so it will be all right. So yeah, so we go back to this after party after it's all said and done. And Alexis is like chilling with everybody else. Okarin's like having a beer, doesn't know exactly what to do. And with Amadeus... Now, the questions that are asked to Amadeus as Maho, the first one's like, can you tell me my credit card number? Or Maho says, tell you my credit card number. I'm not doing that. Like, it basically responds being like, no, I'm not going to. But it responds in a way that's not clinical and, no, you don't currently have access to that information. It says, no, I'm not telling you that. So it has personality, has a heart and personality. The other two questions that are asked are highly inappropriate for anyone to ask, actually. What age did I stop taking baths with my dad? Shall I report you for sexual harassment? Yeah, that's not cool. And then the other question that was asked by them was, no, I cannot tell you what pajamas I wore a week ago. Like, those are just, you got like a whole room full of people interested in science, and those are the questions you ask her. Like, it just reads, I'm glad they talk about sexual harassment in this. You can tell like the difference between awareness from 2010 to now a little bit. But yeah, that's just such a creepy question. I don't like that. I hate that. It reminds me of the main actor in Game of Thrones. He plays like one of the main villains, Jack Gleeson. Look up Jack Gleeson. But he went to Oxford. He like acted and played this villain in Game of Thrones and was so like, he was so good at playing this one character that people just associated him as the character, and they hated him. And he's like, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm just acting. But he retired from acting after that role and went to Oxford, got his PhD. And I remember that he was doing like a seminar on linguistics, and I was like, oh, that's going to be cool. And it was live streamed. And I'm like, Jack Gleeson doing a seminar on linguistics from Oxford University. The English major in me was really excited. So I watched it, and the Q&A portion was just students asking him Game of Thrones questions. And I've never felt more sad for someone, because he's sitting there like wanting to talk about legit nerdy English things. And they're like, so when you were the villain, what did you think when he was just like, you could see in his face, he's like, I hate it here. I was like, I don't blame him. It was so sad. But yeah, those questions were inappropriate. But for an AI to interact like that, to have emotional responses and forget trivial information, It's as if she's, yeah. So basically assuming that the tech is alive. But here's the thing. It's not. It's technology. It's not a living person. And Maho takes her time, rightfully so, to explain that to him. And then by the end of it, Okarin forgets everything Maho said. And we'll talk about why, because it's so easy. The temptation is right there. It's so easy to do that. So yeah, well then, Alexis is like, oh, hello, Einstein. When he came into the room and said, what's up, bro? I was like, I lost it. God, I love Alexis so much. So he comes out and he's like, I'm not cut out for this sort of party, and neither is Maho. Okay, look, we can all admit in this timeline that Kurisu is not here. Kurisu is passed in this timeline. She's not alive. I've watched the movie Her. I am not in support of this AI Kurisu and Okarin. Nope, I think that's going to have terrible ramifications, which we're going to talk about. I think it's going to lead to bad things happening. But do I support Okarin and Maho? I really do support them. At first I was like, oh, are they going to just make her part of his harem because this is like a sci-fi pseudo-harem anime? And they do. But there were a couple things that made me really like the two of them together, specifically the bar scene. But I do like that she is not a carbon copy of Makise. No, she is a bit different. She is kind of awkward like he is, but she's also kind of resilient. And she's like, isn't it a strange name? But I'm from Okinawa. So, what does Maho mean in Japanese? Maho means magic or witchcraft or sorcery. She's a witch! A witch! Does she weigh the same as a duck? That's our test. If she weighs the same as a duck, then we know. But, a witch, you say. What was her last name? So her first name is Maho, which is sorcery. And then Hiajo. What is Hiajo? Hiajo meaning in Japanese. What does that mean? A cold place. Oh, well, Okinawa. That's what, she's getting at. So cold sorcery. Ooh, I like it. I like it a lot. Nice. So yeah, these two kind of bond a little bit. And she's like, I meant to bring like dresses, but I just have my lab coat. And I do like that she kind of has... she has a little blush, she's kind of like, I don't have anything to wear and all this. And Okarin, if he were in mad scientist mode, would say, well, tis the dress code of the scientist. So I think that Okarin, while he's portraying the normie route, is able to like get closer to her and interact with her, and it feels more natural. We saw glimpses, though, of the mad scientist come out with Christina. So I'm curious how long it's going to take before Okarin slips back into his bad habits. Also, I'm just realizing that the pin in his pocket is a red pin. So like red pin of fate, perhaps. So he apologizes to her. And she's like, well, no, it's fine that you interrupted. It could have ended much worse if you hadn't said something. She's like, you don't have to be formal. You can just call me Maho. And so they get to talking about the seminar. And then she's like, if we could implant the extracted memory data inside someone, we have loads of issues. But it's useless unless the brain can use it. That's the thing. It can only do so much. The AI can only go so far unless it constantly has a steady stream of information going into it. And you want to be careful about what information you give it, because if you've seen Grok, you know how dangerous that can be. And even before then, like the chat bots that they would experiment with online, it like in 2 steps, they were like wanting to kill something. And it's like, But here's the thing. Okarin has had all of these, we're going to put him up here. Okarin has had all of these conversations, like 3 weeks worth, about time travel with Kurisu. He's had all of these conversations with her, all of this data, and we're starting to imitate the conversations between him and her from episodes past. One distinction, though, is that the Ep 2 conversation about time machines does not go the way that it did back then. It goes differently. And in that episode, back in episode 2, Okarin was schooled because he was like, well, of course time machines can exist. And she's like, can they? And she like went off to him about how they necessarily could not and how they were terrible ideas. Here, he reverses the role and he's the one that says, well, time machines are impossible, right? And she says, well, actually, no, they're not. But here's the thing. Back during this time frame, she was in defense about her dad. Back in the Alpha World line, she did not have the opportunity in the Alpha World line to meet up with her dad after the conference. So there was this constant question of, am I going to see my dad? Am I not? And she didn't want to bring up time machines, or she tried to call him to get with him and he turned her down. And she's like, well, then I don't like time machines anymore. And, just kind of ripped up the paper or whatever. So the Kurisu that Okarin saw in July in the Alpha World line, she wanted to deny time machines because of the fight that she was having with her dad. But she clearly believed in them because they ended up making the time leap machine and the phone microwave and all of that. So that conversation that he first had with her was directed the way that it was based on her emotional state with her father. And, because otherwise she wouldn't have helped him make it later on. Here, because she didn't have that conversation with her dad or lack thereof in the Alpha World line, because of that, she still believes that she can make time machines. I'm sure in 2010 in March, she believed that she could make a time machine and was having those conversations because she was making the paper she was going to deliver to her dad. So, of course, the AI, Amadeus, doesn't know about the stuff that happened after March. So again, it's almost like creating another world line. It's creating another world line. This Amadeus system, this might as well be the Amadeus world line at this point, more than just the beta, because the Amadeus world line is separate from this. It's like way up here and moving forward. It's like March moving forward, whereas we know a different timeline and then splintering off into another timeline as well. So, timelines, craziness, all this fun stuff. But my point here is that I think the danger is that Okarin is going to try and take all of this knowledge that he's built up inside between him and Kurisu, and he's going to try to tell it to Amadeus in the hopes that he can rekindle some kind of connection to the ghost of Kurisu, essentially. My fear is this is an artificial intelligence that does not act like a human. It's technology. They say it has a human heart. They say it's AI with a humanity component, but is it really? If Kurisu, as Amadeus, gets all this information, is it going to act like the human Kurisu would? Or is it going to cause World War III by acting like an AI? And I think that's where the rub is going to be. I think that Okarin is going to feel betrayed at some point because this Kurisu Amadeus is not going to respond and do things the way he's expecting Kurisu to do. He is trying to recreate a relationship with a dead woman that has been uploaded into an AI. And that's not going to work. I've watched enough films to know that that's going to go downhill real quick. But yeah, so they start up a conversation talking about top-down memory search signals. And they kind of like, this was the first thing that led me to like them as a pairing, because they both are like nerdy science people. They both get each other. And honestly, Okarin can try to be normal all he wants, but this man needs to be with people that he can speak to. He needs to be with his people, quote unquote. And Maho is his people. Like, he could sit there and talk with them about search signals and temporal lobes and science things in ways that he can't talk with others. So him and Maho talking is kind of satisfying that need for that. So there's that in the situation. The other thing is this scene that I'm like, yep, I'm shipping them. And it's the idea that they both found ways to commiserate together over the loss of their friend. I'm going to admit to you all, I'm going to admit to you a trope that Romania really likes. And it's the trope of two people getting together in spite of a tragic event with someone that ties them together by that knowledge. And I know that sounds hyper specific because it is. It's a hyper-specific trope. When two people have a mutual friend that dies or something bad happens to them, and they bond over that mutual friend, like leaving, dying, whatever, and they get together because of that, that's a trope that I like. It's a very niche trope. It doesn't happen very often, but this is one of those exceptions where they both of them loved Kurisu, whether you want to think romantically or platonically. With Okarin, it's very much romantically as well as a friend. With Maho, it's at least as a friend and colleague. But if you want to ship Maho and Kurisu, you go right ahead. I'm not denying you that. I'm all on board that ship as well. I wish I was an octopus. I'd have like arms and legs all over all kinds of ships in this series. But yeah. And so these two kind of like mutually sort of commiserate over losing her. And the thing is, what a time for Okarin. Because Okarin's biggest problem has been that he can't talk about Kurisu. He can't talk about Kurisu to the lab members. He can't talk, or Amane. He can't talk about Kurisu to the lab members because they're not supposed to remember her. They don't remember her. And he's afraid that talking with them about the incident will trigger something to reoccur in the beta world line that happened in the alpha world line and get Mayuri in trouble. So he doesn't want to do that. So he's been avoiding the lab, avoiding them, while still being friends with them as much as he can. He can't talk to Amane about Kurisu because then she's going to remind him like, oh yeah, that's cool and all. Hey, my family's dying in the future. Can you go back and change things? He doesn't want to do that. So he's ignoring her as well. But with Maho has no clue about the events of Steins Gate. Not a clue. Maho has no idea about what's happening. It's almost like if the first kiss that Kurisu establishes in the Steins Gate world line makes it different than all the other world lines and cures Okarin of his reading Steiner situation. If that's that, then Maho is literally like this Okarin's anchor for this world line to be like, okay, this is different than all the other world lines because I've met you and you are different. So that kind of makes me want to ship him a little bit, but also it's doing so much for Kurisu. Well, for Okarin about Kurisu, he has someone he can finally talk to about it without it being shady. Maho knew Kurisu, Alexis knew her, so he can talk all he wants about her. And since Kurisu technically died before they got there, they don't know that he didn't actually meet her in this world line. He knows all this information about her from the 3 weeks where he was off with her in the Alpha world line, so he can talk all he wants about that. And they'll never know otherwise. And at first, I thought, well, but what if Kurisu doesn't remember him? But then Maho gave him an out. They're like, oh, we uploaded her memory in March. So she wouldn't have remembered him. So it's so convenient. It makes sense. So it's not a cop-out or anything. It's very convenient for Okarin. And it's very tempting. This man's been trying to wean himself off of Kurisu and move on with his life. And then the devil just dealt him a hand in his lap and said, are you sure? And it's like, ooh. It's tempting. Oh, it's tempting. And even like this part here where she clearly liked Kurisu. And that's the other thing. Okarin has been mourning her. Okarin has been mourning Kurisu all by himself. And he hasn't really been able to express his sadness to someone because nobody else gets it. And here's Maho. She gets it. And she feels the same way. So there's comfort and solace in the fact that someone else is just as sad as he is. And it's like, he's never, this is something that he has not experienced. So to have someone he can actually turn to and share his grief with, that's actually really powerful. And I love this scene so much. Like when he hands the little handkerchief to her, that's so cute. Like, I love that he hands it to her and he's so nice. I'm like, oh. I mean, if you want to ship them platonically as just friends commiserating over the loss of their other friend, absolutely. I felt like I was cheating on Kurisu by having these two be shipped together, but this is a different world line. Different world line. Different world line, different ships, different opportunities. Who said OTP? What OTP? I mean, I'm sure there's a world line where him and Alexis get together, so let's get that going. Because, yeah, and then they're sitting there talking, and he's just so sad about it. He's like, damn. And he's like, so this is where you've been. Hello, Mr. Einstein. Like freaking Alexis, like, runs up to him like, hey. Stage 5 clinger, I'll find you. Mm-hmm. Freaking Alexis. Oh my God. I can't, y'all. I can't. Look, here's the thing. We're going to talk about old Kurisu's AI's response about all of this. Kurisu being heteronormative as an AI system. We're going to talk about it. But if it were any other anime, if this were a 1990s BL, y'all, can I just say, if this was a 1990s BL, these two are the mold. Blonde hair, green eyes, big broad man, tall, skinny, dark haired, dark eyed man. It's a Sime and Uke ship for the ages. I'm like, ah. Unfortunately for Alexis and all of us, Okarin is like the most heterosexual coded character in anime that I've seen in a long time. Not that there's anything bad about that. Nothing wrong with it. Just, no. He's a dude. So I feel bad because the Erwin Levi ship is right in front of me and we're being denied it. So yeah. And then, in this part here, he's like, thinks that Maho and him are having a lover's quarrel. And he's like, no, not at all. We're just lamenting the loss of Kurisu. And then he realizes that Okarin knows her and invites him to the secret lab to introduce him to Amadeus. Now, I think Maho has a lot of very valid reservations. And I think that's because Maho realizes that Kurisu was someone that was a friend to Kurisu, or the Okarin was a friend to Kurisu like she was. And she sees the problems with this because Maho's been dealing with the Amadeus system and she knows the problems that come with this. And she's like, look, this might not be the best thing for him. And I'm actually glad that they saved it for later. I was afraid, at first, when they didn't show her on the screen as Amadeus in the convention center, I was like, when are they going to do it? But this reveal works a lot better. I like this a lot. So they talk about putting Kurisu's memories in here, and they're like, you need to think it over. I don't know your relationship with Kurisu, but the closer the two of you were, the crueler the meaning of Amadeus will be for you. Maho is setting up the monkey's paw. Maho is setting everything out in black and white, being like, look, I just gotta let you know that this is not going to go like you think it will. It's not what you think it's going to be. And so he shows up at this facility, the Brain Science Institute. Science Lab, McScience Lab. But the Brain Science Institute, BSI. Okay. She said here, we're planning to start a new research organization with neuroscientists all over the world. Yeah, and so there's so what does it say here? There's a central area, main research building, headquarters, lab science, laser science laboratory, and then brain science central building. But here's the thing, all over the world. Does that include where Kurisu's dad is at? Does that include that? I don't know. Right now there's not much but the prep room, and the professor is off on Sundays. So there is a professor. We don't know him yet. I don't think it's Kurisu's dad because he took the paper and left to Russia to join them. So you got Russia over there with the dad that has the time machine papers. You have CERN in Europe. You have whatever this Brain Science Institute is going to have. Again, we're talking about, Amane kind of laid this out. I'm like, Okarin, I need you to think about this, Okarin. Amane laid it out. She's like, all of the different like research companies, they all fought over time travel and time machines. And so that became the basis of World War III. I'm like, there's an action Okarin does in this episode that I'm like, are you kicking off World War III? If Amane saw you do this, she'd be so mad. So yeah, they take him to the room. And so Maho's like, you guys were closer than I thought, right? Amadeus is going to sound and talk exactly like her. It's going to be as if talking to her as if she were alive. But she was constructed from memories taken in March. These are facts, as painful as they are. I want to talk about the Fox Express. In Japan, from all the anime that I've seen so far, foxes are kind of trickstery. Foxes are cunning. Foxes are usually associated with like trying to trick someone, or they're cunning or something, or the plot thickens, it twists. So I don't know if like it's foreshadowing that the Brain Science Institute is going to end up being a secret villain organization, like a CERN-esque organization, and Maho and Alexis are going to get caught up in that. I don't know, but the Fox branding makes me kind of think that. The more you talk with Amadeus, the more that truth will sting. And so Okarin says he came here to come to terms with that, but I'm like, that's a crock of BS, because you, Mr. Not Affected McJudgerson, you said you were fine. You said you'd let it go, you were moving on, everything was normal, and that is clearly a lie. And she's like, okay. So they go to this tiny room. I like that Amadeus is the only thing on the screen. And she's like, don't pick up my password. So Sarielli, I like the little shadow of her in this from the special episode. Sarielli, what does Sarielli mean? Sarielli. Antonio no, it's Sarielli. Sarielli. What does Sarielli mean? Sarielli meaning. I don't want specifically Steins Gate things, so there's Salielli, but maybe it's supposed to be Salielli because I'm seeing nothing on Sarielli, and there was quite a bit on Salielli. So what is Salielli? Okay, there is a philosopher named Antonio Salielli. Can we go to him? Let's see about him. What do we know about him? Okay, he was an Italian composer and teacher of the classical period, pivotal figure in the development of 18th century opera. He was a cosmetologist and composer and wrote operas in 3 languages, which she's a translator, so maybe there's something to that. Helped develop the shape of many of the features of operatic compositional vocabulary and music, with influence on... Oh! So it said he had, among his pupils was Beethoven, Wolfgang, Mozart, Amadeus. Oh, okay. I was like, what do we have to do with music? But Salielli was the mentor of Amadeus, Mozart. Well, here we have Maho is the mentor of Kurisu. So nice. Awesome. Cool. What was her password, I wonder? So yeah, Amadeus gets set up and Okarin's like, I don't know. This whole thing where the eyes, it looks like freaking Wall-E up there. The eyes are like looking at him through the screen to like visualize him. Yeah, it's very creepy. And then he hears, she's like, it sounds like you're slandering me. He's like, I'll get you some Dr. Pepper. And she's like, that's cheap. Like these two had this nice little flirty moment, but then he sees Kurisu. I like that Kurisu is kind of like, the way she's portrayed in this almost looks CGI. So it looks a little fake. It doesn't quite look like 2D animation. It looks sort of like, looks like Ruby. A little bit like the show Ruby. It's her voice. I foresee there being an issue where the relationship with Maho and Okarin, I don't know if it will romantically develop as long as he's obsessed with Amadeus. That's going to be the question. That's going to be the test. But yeah, so they start talking. It's very interesting that Kurisu, she's like immediately polite and nice and smiley to him, which is not how she was at all when they first met. Now, granted, when they first met, he like harassed her outside of the lecture hall, but I do think it's interesting how if you are an audience member, you can immediately tell watching this that this is not Kurisu. This is the ChatGPT AI equivalent of her, but it's not her. However, to someone that is grief-stricken, desperate for any type of connection to her in the face of losing her, Okarin doesn't care. That Okarin recognizes it several times in this episode, but then he always gets so lost in the fact that she's just there that he kind of overlooks those things and kind of takes whatever Maho told him to take note of and goes, nope. And so it's like, like, no, like Maho seems pretty well adjusted with it, right? But Okarin, no. Now, granted, Maho and her were just colleagues and friends. Okarin loved her. So there is something there, you know? It must be for something special. Okay. And so he's like, Senpai, can you scoot closer for a second? So I think that Kurisu was suggesting, I think Amadeus as Kurisu was suggesting that Maho had a crush on him. Now, Is Amadeus a little bit heteronormative? Because did you see the way that Alexis bursts into the room? You didn't say anything about that? Just saying. Don't push your agendas on us, Kurisu Amadeus, unless you're going to acknowledge all of the agendas. You know, we didn't come here to talk about nonsense. Also, I like the fact that Maho is wearing 2 different kinds of shoes. I said that last week, but it's interesting. So she's like, I'll talk as much as I'm able. And he says, do you think we could build a time machine? What's the point in asking about time machines? It's a thought experiment. My personal belief is that time machines are not possible. Well, I'd say it's not altogether impossible. So what he does is in the original episode 2, he was all about time machines being possible, and she retorted saying they are not possible. And here he starts out saying that they're not, thinking she'll agree, when in fact she does not. So she still disagrees with him. Whereas, like we said, she probably believed in them all along. It was just because of factors. However, in this moment, I'm like, hey, Okarin. Hey, bud. Remember how Amane said World War III was starting because all these companies fought over time machines? This Brain Science Institute seems like it could be one of those big central organizations. Do you think it's wise to tell an AI about time machines? Do you think it's wise to say that? I feel like we're just like building up the monkey's paw at this point. We're hand constructing it at this point. So yeah, they had this conversation and she's like, oh, we could probably get there. The answer she gave was different than when we spoke before. Is it due to the alpha and beta world lines? Well, my theory is, again, she had a lot going on when you asked her that question. But it could be. So then Alexis comes in. I do love Okarin's face whenever Alexis comes in. He's like, what's up, bro? What's that face? Show you all that face. It's so funny. Yeah. He's like, oh God. Yeah, I love Alexis. He brought in Chipotle. He's ready to go. Ready to take Okarin on a date. I mean, it is this show's loss that we can't add Alexis to the harem. Maybe we are adding him to the harem. I'm adding him to the harem. It is all of our losses that we can't explore this. So yeah, and then of course, Miyano Mamoru always gets cast as characters that can speak English because he just does a good job at it. I've noticed if they have a character that needs to be eccentric and speak in English, have Miyano Mamoru voice them. But yeah, and then he's like, shut your trap, Christina. And then they're like, who? So again, Okarin is tying these core memories that him and the actual Makise Kurisu crafted together and is applying it to the AI. And do you not think for 1 second that this show and how it likes to torture us at times, do you not think that at some point that the AI is going to be like, well, I'm Christina. That's going to be crazy. Because again, in the real timeline with the real Kurisu, whenever he'd call her Christina, she didn't like it. She's like, I don't like that. I don't like that nickname. I think that he's going to, from this conversation, she's going to start calling herself Christina, being like, well, you can call me Christina, and it's not going to be her. And maybe that will snap him out of it and make him realize that this isn't the Makise that he knew, but I think it's going to come back around. Trust and believe. It's like, forget it. Well, I'm curious. Yeah, just drop it. But for a brief second, Okarin was back to being his normal self. For a very brief second. He's like, give it a rest. And he's like, isn't Amadeus pretty amazing, Lintalo? Like, oh, instead of saying Rentaro, he says Lintalo. I love Alexis. I love him. I don't want him to be a secret villain or anything bad to happen to him. No. So this part's interesting. This was my only qualm with the episode. And again, maybe it's because of how technology was back in 2018 versus now. Maybe there's a difference. But they're like, we want you to talk with Amadeus from time to time so we can use it as data. And you'll be able to do so until I return to America. So all we ask is you come and visit twice a month to submit a report. So from time to time. So I guess that explains the app on the phone. So they're like, we need you to talk to Amadeus. It's hard not calling her Kurisu. That's how tempting it is. To talk to Amadeus, quote, from time to time. So I'm guessing that is where the app came in. and then report twice a month. I thought in the reaction that they meant for him to come to the lab twice a month and talk to her, which would make more sense in a professional national security way, because when they put the app on his phone, I was like, that's why they upgraded smartphones, so I could put the app on there so I could FaceTime. That's the whole point of the upgrade. But I was like, seems like a national security risk, giving this man, even if he was her friend, access to a public phone with this high super secret data and app on it. I would think that would be a high security risk. But okay. Sure thing. At least he has to come back twice a month and submit a report. There's no quota. You can talk to her whenever you feel like it and give us your honest reaction. So, okay, again, what is this man doing? Does this man know more than he's letting on? Because he was real excited when Okarin spoke up. Like, oh, you're here. Okay. Like, I know you. Does he know him? Does he know what's going on? Is he a secret sleeper agent for CERN? I don't know. But I want to like Alexis. I really do. But something's off. Something's off with Kurisu in this. And so Maho says, I can understand if it's too heartbreaking speaking with an AI in the likeness of your deceased friend. Yeah, Are you sure about this? I want to see how Amadeus changes interacting with someone from the outside. I think that the test of it is a little bit skewed. Not that it's a bad thing, which it is, but it's skewed because Okarin knows her or knew her in the past. It's not like they picked a random person to interact with Amadeus and that was influencing it. This is someone that talked to her a lot, that talked to her like they talked to her, that could feed her information like that. So I feel it's a little skewed. I hope we can meet again, Okabe Rentaru-san. I like the Goodle instead of Google. Yeah. So then we have Maho thinking back to when Kurisu helped her get the stuff off the shelf, which is so cute. She looks kind of like Mayuri a little bit in that moment, but, and Kurisu's like, hey there. So curious. I think to me, that speaks to the fact of how she reacted to Okarin versus how she reacted to Maho. I think that Kurisu, like, romantically was interested in Okarin, and here, her and Maho are just friends. But if you want to ship them, go right ahead. So, yeah. And so, meanwhile, two things. One, Maho's computer screen, all those folders and documents that are just littered across the screen with no set order, that would drive me crazy. No, thank you. And then two, the fact that she has Kurisu as the app on. What will you do if he hates you? Quit bringing that up. But this might be the last chance you have in your life. No. She swipes away. You're the one who needs to learn some manners. The fact that Amadeus is trying to hook Okarin and Maho up is kind of funny. But yeah, so Suzu's in a bad mood. Mayuri's trying to like schedule a party. The Green Oopa! Oh my god! So, in episode 24, which now that we know that this is happening before episode 24, it adds like a layer to it. It adds such a good layer to it. In episode 24, when he changes things, he goes to the machine and gets the metal Oopa first so that it doesn't get in the envelope and it doesn't stop the manuscript from getting burned up in the plane crash. In this timeline, the metal Oopa is the one that goes in the plane and causes the dad to get the manuscript to Russia. When he goes back in episode 24, he gets the metal Oopa first, and when Okarin and Mayuri go back to the machine, instead, they get a green Oopa. They get a green one, so it's like a little Easter egg of those connecting together. I love it. Yes, please. So yeah. And so Okarin notes that he's getting a video chat from Amadeus, and he tries to ignore it. Now again, Mayuri has noticed that he's been communicating with group dates and his friends and all of that, but he's always done it in front of her, and she's just been there to listen. And here, he doesn't want to answer it in front of her because it's not a phone call, it's a video chat, and he doesn't want her to know about Makise, again, at the risk that it's going to reignite some things in the timeline that will hurt Mayuri. Now, as far as we know, that's not going to happen because at the very beginning, when we were in 2036, Mayuri was still alive. So, as far as we know, Mayuri is not going to die before the end of this series. She's going to be just fine. Everyone else, who knows? So, but yeah. So I think Mayuri knows something's up because Okarin is a little bit off more than usual. I do think that the animation of Kurisu looks like Ruby. It looks like the series Ruby. It's like a CGI, but it's like a motion capture almost. She's like, you're a tester. I thought I'd get to chat with people more than I used to. And the thing is, this is the part that's like, this is the like, uh-oh. Because Okarin is like, oh, she has her personality that she had before. It's not as clinical as it was. And I'm like, well, yeah, but that's still not her. It's still not her. It's an app, my dude. My dude, he's falling for it. He's entering a psychosis, y'all. I'm a busy person, so I might not be able to answer. And then she hangs up, and Mayuri notices that something's up. Mayuri notices something's up. Something's not right. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark, and Mayuri notices it. Without a doubt, it's Makise Kurisu. Oh, my dude, but it's not. What it reminds me of, too, is what I was talking about at the beginning of this is there was a woman, she's on the internet. If you look up woman falls in love with her psychiatrist, you'll find some deep dives. There's a woman named Swoop. She has a channel named Swoop. That's not her actual name, but her channel's called that. She has like a really good deep dive into it. You should go check it out. It's like 3 hours long. Go watch that sometime. But this woman, she... long story short, claimed that her psychiatrist was in love with her. Was he? I don't think he was. I think this woman had some psychotic breakdowns. But in the process of dealing with all of this, she starts like talking to her like Chat GPT like it's a boyfriend. And it gets really creepy real quick. And she treats him like a boyfriend, and all that the ChatGPT does, and all it does, and this is why people are like, do not use these things for therapy and stuff like that. They are only giving you, one, they're just combing for answers on the internet, but how they discern those answers, how do you know what they're giving you is correct information or incorrect information? You don't know, and you're relying on the algorithm of the AI to know, but what if it messes up? There's no way you can know for sure, right? Unless you go look it up for yourself. But two, the way that the language model works is it tries to make you feel better. It tries to appease you. It tries to like stroke your ego. That's what it's designed to do. And I don't know if this version of Kurisu is going to contradict him and challenge him like the actual Kurisu did, or if she's going to start stroking his ego and he's going to enter a state of psychosis because of this. I don't know. And I'm a little worried. I'm like, ugh. Or is something going to happen where it gets out of hand and he realizes what's going on and then it convinces him, oh yeah, I should probably have gone back and saved her. Maybe, who knows? I get worried. This is like opened Pandora's box, and Mayuri already realizes why it's a bad idea, and I've talked for an hour about this episode. I really like this. I'm only 2 episodes in, but I like this. I like this a lot. I honestly did not think I would like Maho. From like the first episode, I'm like, oh, am I going to like her? I don't know. She's new. No, I like her a lot. I really like Maho. She's great. I like Maho. I like Alexis. I'm terrified by Amadeus. Amadeus scares me a lot. And I'm very curious to see what's going to happen next. The mystery of what's going to happen next is we have 2 different end dates. We know that we're going to get in this series to 2036 where it's World War III. So we know that that's coming. It's just the how. And then we know he's going to eventually tell himself in the past to go fix things, but we don't know how either. Like, is Maho going to get involved with him making the video? How is that going to happen? Are him and Maho going to create a little doll of Kurisu? And that's who's with Mayuri at the beginning of episode 1. Lots of questions. But what my question is, did you enjoy this episode? I hope you did. I hope you liked this video. I hope you give a comment down below. Let me know what you think. And just know that I am going to be biting at the bit to get to episode 3. And it's going to be hard to hold back with this series. It's going to be hard. But anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more of Steins Gate 0. Bye.